Have you guys recognized that the art of faction storytelling has become dead? Over the years, WWE has seemingly showed us that they cannot put together a storyline with a faction that actually has a worthy payoff. You see, this video, we're going to be discussing a lot of the factions that WWE's created in the past, the ones that were really outstanding, that really made you feel something, and then today how it contrasts with sort of haphazardly putting together people, wrestlers, celebrities, and just you know calling it a faction when really it's just a group of guys with no creative direction. You see, WWE used to know how to build factions, and these are factions that felt dangerous. They felt unforgettable. They felt mysterious. I mean, we could name a whole bunch of different factions out there. DX, Evolution, the Shield, lots and lots of different factions. The Brothers of Destruction. I mean, the corporate ministry. These were factions where you knew that they brought something unique to the table. They brought something unique to the show as a group, as a collective. Like individually, they might have been great, but as a collective, it's almost like their value as individuals it just went up because they're part of this group. And this is important to talk about because it just seems like these days, you know, WWE doesn't care so much about building factions and making storylines around a group of guys or girls that have this sort of common mission. And the issue with that is, think about how much television we watch on a weekly basis. Like how much wrestling is there in a weekly basis? I can't even tell you the numbers because if you look at WWE and then you look at all the other promotions out there, I mean, it's a lot. It's almost like a if you were to watch it consistently, it's almost like a part-time job to be watching all this content and then critiquing it. And don't you think that if we had factions that with each individual they had their own individual story and then they come together and they kind of thread it all together, like don't you think that would make a show much more worthy of watching, much more desirable? Like wouldn't it also make it easy to write the show because you already have your sort of I guess we can call it main event, or you can the guys that are on the top of the card. I mean, you already have it all laid out for you. Now you just have to put the pieces together. That's the easy part. You've already developed a story around this faction. I mean, what was Evolution about? Evolution was about two guys, Randy Orton, Batista. These were the next up, the two guys that were going to sort of signify the next 10 years of the company. And they had Triple H and Ric Flair to help them do that. And there was a mission there. They all had their individual stories, and then they had their story within the group itself. There were so many layers to it. And that just it took up a lot of the show. It was great. That's what we wanted to see. Somewhere along the way, they lost the art of faction storytelling. And if you watch WWE today, you know exactly why that matters. I mean, let's go all the way to the Shield. Okay? They are sort of within the last decade, they have their story still exists today in sort of the remnants of the bloodline story that we still see on television. But initially, when the Shield debuted, um, we're not just talking about the actual debut itself. Like the debut was it was a shock. It was a very big shock seeing these three guys come out and just obliterate everybody, and seeing them come in these like masks, these sort of like skeleton masks. Like almost like they're dogs, like a pack-like mentality. It was the fact that they could thread this group into different stories within the show. Like I mean, you remember the whole CM Punk situation. Him bring the Shield in and him having them do their dirty work, having the Shield do his dirty work for him. A lot of that made up a significant part of the show. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Ambrose, they all came out of that stronger. They all came out of that story stronger. Every single one of them, we could see like if you separated any one of these guys, like they're gonna work on their own, and they did. Every single one of them did. They all became world champions, and that's what happens when WWE commits to a faction story. Now you look at, let's say, we're gonna contrast this. Not long after we had the Wyatt family. You guys remember the Wyatt family when Bray Wyatt was still here with us. This is a faction that should have taken off the way the Shield did. And for a brief period, it was doing pretty well. I mean, initially, they had a lot of mystique. They had a lot of um, sort of feeling around the group that made it seem very eerie, very cryptic. It was cult-like, and it was different from everything else you saw on the show at the time. They all had an identity. They were bringing on new group members, and they had this sort of mystique around them that brought you in. But you see, that's the same thing that they've been doing on today's television with the Wyatt Six, that's run by Bo Dallas. The issue with them is, with the Wyatt Six today, has been that they believe that this group is only good for shock value, because they try to put these cryptic promos together, but it doesn't lead anywhere. They put them in the ring with these other factions to create this kind of moment in the ring. The crowd chants, but it doesn't go anywhere. With the Wyatts, they dropped the ball because they were doing sort of the same thing. Like they were pushing, but it was inconsistent. One week you would have them be unstoppable, and the next week they'd be losing clean. I mean, the one that I remember the most was WrestleMania 32. They had The Rock come out, and they had a 6 second match, because again they wanted to make a moment, and they had one of the, I think it was Eric Rowan versus The Rock, and it ended in 6 seconds. And then they had Cena come out, two guys against three guys, and the Wyatts, and they just destroyed everybody. I mean, that is the inconsistency that we're talking about. That WWE continuously, as we see today, they continuously do that. So again, the mystique got watered down. Instead of becoming, this faction that people would remember, like the Shield, it was wasted. It was wasted. Um, Again, they had their moments, but they did not. There was no significant payoff in the end, and that's where we had Bray Wyatt. I mean, he turned into the Fiend, and when he turned into that character, that's the character that, uh, in my personal opinion, one of the greatest characters of all time in this business that we saw. Um, that was great, but everybody else, I mean, on the roster, I mean, everybody else, that was a part of that group, I mean, they didn't really turn out to be anything significant. Now, you look at 2025, you look at today, and you can see, like, we're talking 10 years ago. Outside of the Bloodline storyline, which was like once in a lifetime, really. I mean, you don't see stories like that. I mean, a lot of that was written um, from before. Like, a lot of this writing for this story happened before 2020, because Roman Reigns, the Usos, they were together on television for quite a bit of time when they were babyface. So they actually had that whole story kind of like narrated beforehand. Now they could kind of put the pieces together and make this into sort of this bloodline tribal chief story. But we look at today, I mean, look at the other factions here. The Vision, do these guys, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, do these guys really need a group with Paul Heyman? You know what I mean? Like we think about it and we're like, does Braun Breaker really need a group to get over as a main event talent? Did he really need that to begin with? And sure, you might make the argument that it's needed because these are two young guys and they're trying to do what they did with Evolution. That's cool, but you can kind of see, like, it has been very lackluster. We have not felt this kind of evolution group, this kind of feeling like we did when we saw Triple H and Ric Flair with Orton and Batista. And they had to make the decision very quickly to have Braun Breaker turn on Seth Rollins. I mean, the group was around for what, 6 months, 7 months, and they said, we'll just make it happen here. We're gonna have him turn on Rollins right away. And there were reports that this was already in the working, like they were planning to do this soon anyways. But because Rollins was expected to be out with injury, they decided like we could just pull the plug here. It would make the most sense because he's going to be out and he'll return. But again, they did it so fast, so quickly. People expected it, and that's the issue because like people expect you to turn, and if you're not able to keep their interest long enough, then you sort of fail at creating this faction that can last as long as the bloodline did. Of course, you won't always have a bloodline like faction. However, a faction for 6 months, I mean, what good is that? I mean, we've seen tag teams who have just like paired up together, two guys on the roster. They're not an actual tag team, but they pair up together and they win the titles, and they last longer than 6 months. So what was the point of having a faction for 6 months? You look at the Judgment Day. You see, here's the thing with the Judgment Day. The Judgment Day was phenomenal when they had Edge in that group. Then they added a lot of other characters, and now it's to the point where it's very watered down. Okay? It does not have the same effect. We know that they're going to split. They're going to split this group. But again, factions today, they lack this kind of clear identity and purpose. Like, what's the identity? What's the purpose of the Judgment Day? You know what I mean? Like, what is their mission here? What is their purpose? And at this point, as a group, it's clear to me that they are not going to be taking any sort of direction forward. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be splitting the group up because it's done. It's, they don't have anything left for them. So this is what I mean with the factions. Like, they throw people together and it's all for shock value. And then there's not a lot of long-term storytelling behind it. So when we look at the Shield, we look at the Bloodline, we look at what they did, and we see that there's a strong contrast between the success of those guys and the success of, guys that are in these other factions where they don't really thread them. They don't really take the stories and thread them in a way where it continues to enhance and build them up. I mean, does Dominic need the Judgment Day anymore? Not really. It's not really helping him anymore. He's made his own. He's done his own. And he's going to continue to do that. So I want to know your guys' opinion because I see this so often on television, and I'm thinking like, man, there was a time where we had such great factions. We had such great storytelling with the factions, and that's what made wrestling, Like, there's the one-on-ones, which we get, but wrestling is all about that character development, and I feel as if they forgot how to do that. I don't think the art of it is dead, but I do feel like they forgot how to do that. So I want to hear your guys' comments. Like, drop your comments. Which faction today do you feel risks becoming the next sort of Wyatt family? Which one could become the next Shield? Which one is going to grow to that level where every single star in that group is going to come out and be a world champion? I'd like to know your perspective there. Thank you guys for watching. I will be recording more videos and really kind of delving into like the past and future of WWE, like sort of like we did here, because there's a lot to be talking about and there's a lot to dissect in terms of what WWE has been doing, what they have done, and where they could go from here. So stay tuned. I will see you in the next video. Take care.